Now, if you hear me at the start of the show as the very first voice, I don't really do too many of these little pieces. So it's going to be around flare strips, and it's going to be a little fact that you might not have known. We've talked about it on previous shows. Loads and loads of horses at 5-star level, actually across the whole sport, to be honest. But 5-star is probably one of the levels that we see most often. And you're looking at 85-90% of horses at Kentucky this year and the last few years, and Badminton this year and the last few years. You're looking at those horses all wearing a flare strip as they go across country. And actually, lots of show jumpers as well. So Explosion wore one in Tokyo. But as we're working with flare, they said, it's one thing for people to have it. We would really love if people understood all of the science behind it. And can we get out a couple of simple, short pieces which allow us to give some of the facts around it? So it's been out in the market for 20 years. It's had huge success. We've talked about the amount of people that use it, but equally, it's not just kind of marketing stats. It's clinical study. I think there's 8 clinical trials now, or clinical studies, which have all shown the benefits of this. But my little fact for you today, Rosie, and I just think this, to be honest, I think this is so cool. So breathing and stride length, Rosie, they're all linked. Now,
that I did know.
That you did know, okay, right? Because I'm never sure at which point people are going to be like, come on, we knew that. Okay, well, breathing and stride are linked. So a horse takes a breath with every stride. Now, when you start going faster than a hand gallop, horses increase their speed. And now here we go, Rosie. This is the bit where I was like looking open mouth with excitement, when I guess a lot of other people might be thinking, that's obvious. But horses don't get faster by moving their legs faster. They actually they increase their stride length. That's how you get faster. When you're going beyond the gallop, they actually increase stride length. Now, we've said that a single breath with each stride, but when a horse is lengthening a stride, they're taking longer, deeper breaths. So they're filling their lungs with more air. So if you're struggling or you're finding it more difficult to get air in and out, horses tend to or can shorten their stride and get tireder. So if you're able to have a horse that is, I suppose you're maximizing the ease at which a horse is able to get as much air in as possible, so you can do that easily. It's really helpful, of course, for stride lengthening. So, speed, I suppose, in that case. And equally, more importantly, I guess, for cross-country, stride adjustability. So being able to react and stay in a rhythm as those combination and questions come. So that is one of the reasons why people will use flare strips.
I love that. That's so cool, because you always just think faster means, moving your legs faster. But I love it. Just a longer stride.
Yeah, longer stride and breath. Do you remember my fact from the first show? When they're exercising, they have to breathe through their nose. So it's like a maze. If, they need as much air as they can, how do they get it? Get it through their nose. Help them on the nose. There.
I like it. It's very, very
that's
good.
That's not their motto, help them on the nose. I've just used that as my own, but it's true. That's where they need the help when they're exercising. Nasal passages, airways, make it easy. I'll just keep giving you these taglines, Rosie. You can cut me off at the point where you're ready.
Wow, listeners, what a weekend at the Luhmühlen horse trials. We have possibly seen something pretty darn special. We're going to look back on all of the action. We're going to look forward to some future stars as well. The winner was even in flare strip, which just completed the story beautifully. I'm going to start by welcoming our guests. We have got 2 regulars on the show, and then we have a newbie listener. So I'm going to start, debutant Rosie Russell, very big hello to you, but I'm going to gloss over to you because the man with the inside intel, one of Germany's brightest young stars, and our latest addition to the podcast, Konstantin Harting. Welcome to the show. It is lovely to have you with us.
Hi, guys. Thanks very much. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the show.
We're very, very excited to have you on the Echo Ratings team. And actually, I know, listeners, that he has some really cool nuggets of information on a few of the combinations that we're going to be talking about. So prepare yourselves. First of all, London 52, Laura Collett. make it win number 3 at the 5-star level. It didn't even look in any doubt at any point during the weekend, led very comfortably, 20.3, second best finishing score in 5-star history, beaten only by Michael Young, Fisher Chipmunk, FRH Kentucky last year. Immediate reaction, first of all, before we talk about a few of the kind of the records that are tumbling and everything else. D, immediate reaction, London 52's victory. What do you make of it?
I think when we did the preview show, we got the podiums and we talked. I think I
you didn't even have him on your podium.
I know, yeah.
No.
But I think
Cooley Roseland's going to win.
Cooley Roseland. I did log on to, I didn't see the test, but I did go and have a look at the Cooley Roseland dress. I was like going down. I was like, oh, he must not have brought Cooley Roseland again. I was like, oh, hang on. I'm pretty sure he must have brought. I mean, there's no way we did a preview show and he didn't bring her. So I'm just going to scroll down this one more time, all the way down, till I got to like a 37 dress size or something. So not often that you see that.
There was a fire. Yeah. We'll blame the fire.
First reaction. Sorry, what I was going to say is we talked about them on the previous show. They're the obvious choice. They're the podiums. They're all on our podiums. We're talking about, they're top of the prediction center. It's another thing to go and deliver it, and I wouldn't take that lightly. It's a one thing to be top of a prediction center and to have previously delivered 20. And they're so regularly hitting a score of 20 in the dressage, 5-star dressage, so regularly getting to that 20, 21 zone now and finishing on it. I mean, it's very, very special, but it's one thing to do it on paper. But as we've seen with, you mentioned Fisher Chipmunk in your intro and what they did in Kentucky, but Fisher Chipmunk was a huge, huge favourite going into Bertoni. And it's just not that easy to do it. He was a huge, huge favourite going into Aachen when he had his pin. To be delivering this frequently, and I know Bertoni, I'm not missing the fact that London had that Bertoni problem, but to be delivering this frequently at this level of performance, so like sub 22 finishes, I think we're witnessing something pretty special in terms of the modern sport and how the game is played now, which is that amazing first phase. There is a picture of that halt on, I think, Laura's Instagram.
But I saw photoshopped. I mean, it literally looks yeah, you look like he's on 2 legs.
Yeah, I saw that comment, someone saying, oh, he looks like he's 2 legs, and I had another look at the picture after I saw the comment, and it really does. So in terms of absolutely incredible first phase performances and then meeting the challenge that is the other 2 phases perfectly well, which is all you have to do. So if you can get ahead and you're an amazing dressage horse, and then you can't be caught. And that's what London does now. And I think, what makes that exciting in terms of the next level of conversations is who could potentially stop this horse winning Paris. And I'm sure it's a conversation we'll have, but it's getting more and more difficult to see who could do it.
I do think, though, you can't take away from London 52's performance this weekend. It has been phenomenal. And his 2 other 5 stars that he's won is just outstanding, And you have that confidence when he goes in the ring. You watch the dressage, it's beautiful to watch. And you have that confidence then that 9 times out of 10, he's going to end on it. However, I don't think you can start putting him up as a Paris winner now, because 5 minutes ago you were singing and dancing about Lordship's Graffalo. So, I think that you.
Yeah.
It feels
now.
Yeah, you're right.
Like only weeks ago, and it was only weeks ago, listeners, that there was a whole old show about Lordship's Graffalo absolutely wiping the floor with a badminton field, and all of a sudden, Dee's like, "Oh, he's a Paris winner." About London 52. I would say, though, that a badminton feels different to what the question in Paris is going to be like. Paris feels like it is going to be a little bit more short format. It's a much shorter cross-country track. It's going to be 2-3 at least minutes shorter. So much less of a stamina test. You're going to need a horse that's going to sort of adapt to that. There's nothing to say that Lordship's Graffalo won't, but also he might not get as far ahead of other horses that he would at like badminton this year. I'm just going to put it out there, sticking with London 52 and Laura's win in Luhmühlen this weekend. Power average, which is a calculation that Decoratings use, and it's your best 3 finishing scores At any level, D? Is it at one level? I mean, with this
You
horse,
can apply it. You can apply it as you choose, but we often apply it at any level. Just your last 3 scores.
So
yeah, you can do what you want with it, really.
Best 3 finishing scores at 5-star for London 52. He actually has the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best finishing scores in the world. Only Michael Young's Kentucky result from last year is better by 0.2. His power average, the average of those 3 finishing scores, 21.0. 21. I mean, that is actually obscene. Most people can't get close to even starting anywhere near that, let alone finishing on it at a 5-star. I mean, that is just absolutely extraordinary.
And an average score of 21.
An average score of 21. I mean, imagine. I was going to say there's the Equilibrium Power Average League in British eventing data, but it's national events as opposed to international. I was going to say London 52, and it's in a calendar year. London 52 could win it on a 5-star. Just extraordinary.
It's around that score though when you see the people that win those power averages leagues. You know, if you can get 3 scores at any level of the sport below 21 or 22, you've probably won a season-long league. I say that because what she's doing and what London 52 is doing is absurd, really. You know, I think it goes a long way towards it's a really big conversation about the sport now and how important this first phase is and how good they are at it. Like, it's absolutely incredible to be able to finish below 21 at a 5-star. Rosie, I hear you, and I don't disagree on the fact that I was very, very much driving the Graffalo train a few weeks ago. I think what potentially you could see is I don't think Graffalo can get that low in the first phase. That low, now there's a year to go. I agree. Yeah. But I mean, it's perfection, really, you know, to be able to deliver 20s. It's hard to see where either of them are going to get too much lower. Did London have, I mean, it definitely had one shaky moment, didn't he, in Tokyo, with in the show jumping? In at least one of the rounds, he had that kind of...
Yeah, the second round.
Yeah, was it? You're kind of getting to that point where you're like, get within a rail and then rely on the fact that actually... around the show jumping at the top level in a packed stadium at an Olympics is just going to have a big old degree of chance. Even if you're a brilliant show jumper, you got to get within a rail of them. But you're almost moving into that zone. Like, that's where I would see Graffalo now, Rosie, where you're going to, like, Graffalo is such an incredible show jumper. And in fairness, London is too, but you're almost, I feel, getting to that point where you're going to say, you got to stay within 4 of Chipmunk and London.
I agree.
You know, we're arguing British horses as to...
Can you imagine what score you're going to put on the board if you've got London and Graffalo? Can you imagine what team score?
Insane. Yeah.
Who's number 3?
At the minute, Yaz and Banzai de Loire, probably.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tom McEwen's in there as well, JL Dublin. I mean, I think that a lot can happen in the next 12 months. A lot can happen in the next 12 months. But yeah, I think that's probably where you're looking. And Yaz Ingham will be heading to Aachen with Banzai de Loire, and then hopefully we'll get to see a lot of these combinations at the Europeans. Last one that I'm just going to throw up in terms of London 52 and just how impressive his performance was. He actually joins an elite group of horses, winning 3 5-stars, an even more elite group of horses that have won 3 different 5-stars, because you've got the likes of Fisher Rakana, Michael Young, Winsome Adan, Taken, Severson, Avebury, Andrew Nicholson, who all won the same 5-star. But London 52, Poe 2020, I think it was, Badminton 2022, and then Luhmühlen 2023. So 3 different 5-stars. Only 2 horses have won more than 3 in history, 5-stars. Any guesses as to who they would be, Konstantin?
Is it Labiositic Sam?
He has 6 with Michael Young. Yeah, a bit of a way to catch him yet, but he has 6. Any others? Any takers on the other? They have 4, if that helps.
Avebury?
No, he has 3. Priceless. No, Priceless. Ginny Lang. Yeah.
That was before my time.
Yeah, we were all very young then, Nicole. But you can tell us about them.
Rosie and Konstantin, way too young for this. Anyway, so basically only 2 horses have won more than 3 London 52. You would think actually now in a very, very, very good position to actually add to that tally.
Not Rosie. She doesn't rate him at all.
Oh, no. I do rate him. I rate him. Don't say that, Dee. I rate him massively, and hats off to him for those 3 5-stars. And yeah, he's going to go on and win more. I think that that's undeniable. I just think that we can't forget Graffalo, because we were having a little rave about him about a month ago. And I think that you're right. If he is likely to get within a pole of London 52, he's only 11. And that, London 52 is 14. I mean, exactly. It's hardly 14 is not old, but 11 to be producing what he's producing, I think that we've got to look very, very closely at him, because he is ever improving and could be very, very hot on London's heels.
Can I throw in then, London 52, obviously exceptional. The winning margin is also not to be sniffed at, 6.9, which is still
not too bad.
An all-British podium. Kitty King, Vendredi Beats. They were top 10 at Burghley last year, having led the dressage, and then obviously picked up 11 penalties for a frangible safety device. Badminton this year didn't go to plan for them, but they came back in great form. Actually, only a single time penalty added in the show jumping to their dressage score, which I think Kitty was a little bit disappointed by. I have to admit, I was very, very, very happy to see Kitty and Froggy on that podium. It feels like a result that they've been kind of aiming towards, working towards. They needed this. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think being beaten by 6 marks by London to Kitty and Vendredi Beats in second, I think it kind of sums up the era that we're living in that Kitty King and Vendredi Beats have delivered what I think at multiple points over the last 10 years would have been an amazing 5-star win. Like, what was the final score she finished on? Do you have it to hand? It was
20.3.
No, sorry, Kitty.
Oh, Kitty,
26?
27.2.
I don't know, from 2010 to probably 2017, it wins almost every 5-star.
Yeah, it does.
I think I think the fact that it's Kitty who missed out on Pretoni with this horse and Vendredi Beats, like you were just referencing that record, Nicole, but if you look back at the performances and the scores that Vendredi Beats puts on the board, it is absolutely incredible. It's exceptional. But they happen to be living in the time British freaks. It's the only way to describe it. Like, to get left off the Pretoni team and you're kind of thinking, are they really taking Banzai and Yaz ahead? And then Banzai delivers Yaz's best ever dressage score, and pretty much did they finish on it? I think they did. Almost. And that's Banzai de Loire, who we didn't have pegged as going to do that before. So the minute Kitty, I think, gets ahead of one of them, or you think Vendredi Beats is going to get ahead of one of them, for example, they go to Luhmühlen and they finish on a 27.3, but they just happen to live in the time of London 52, who doesn't just wins by another 6 marks. To answer your question, I'm absolutely delighted for Kitty, because second place in a big 5-star, I think, has been coming. I think I worried a little bit after Burghley that felt like it could be like a Leonidas Burghley situation where you're that close to something and it just, that turned out 5 years later or whatever, you look back and you think that Burghley was the closest they ever got. I'm really pleased now that they've gotten a 5-star podium there. And I think there is still more to come from Kitty and Froggy. But also, I think it's a real big reminder of the times that they live in. To get a horse and a rider like Kitty King, to get a horse like Vendredi Beats through and to the very top level of the sport, and to be producing what she's producing, is such an achievement. And I think it would be terrible if we missed that just because of London, of Graffalo, of Toledo, of Banzai. It's heartbreaking. They're all still there. But, actually, on that last thing on it, I think when Laura and Kitty were coming through, they probably had it with Mary, William, and Tina, where they just couldn't really get through. I just think that Vondrae Beat scoring profile is so low that in any other country in the world, they would be the absolute first horse on the team sheet. Just Britain that they can't.
Yeah, agree completely. I'm just going to put it out there then. Europeans coming up. We're going to do a few shows over the next sort of 4-6 weeks, listeners, kind of building up to the Europeans and kind of reactions and team announcements, that sort of thing. Looking at it now, Kitty King, Vondrae Beat, I want a yes-no answer from all three of you. Are they on the team or are they going to Harada Pan? Rosie?
Yes.
Konstantin?
Yeah, I think so.
D?
Yeah, they should go. But do they go? Like, it doesn't sound like they're going to Paris on your teams, on your current power list. Let's call it that.
It's hard to judge at the moment, though, I'd say, because I was so delighted for her because I really, really wanted her to do well because she's had so much disappointment. So I was really, really rooting for Kitty, and I'm so happy it went this way. But it's now turning in the right direction. I think for Paris, she's just got to prove once more. If she goes and does really well at the Europeans, we could be thinking again. But I think that my current thought process now, no.
It's three in a team, isn't it? You know, it's so hard. So tough. Europeans are a really interesting one. So they've been to 2 European championships, Kitty and Vondrae Beat, and they've finished top 10 individually at both of them. I have to admit, I feel like they've got unfinished business at Burghley, and I'd love to see them go to Burghley, and I think they could well go and win it. That's not to say I don't think she deserves to go to the Europeans, depending on team tactics and how it all works out, of taking some younger combinations. And there's plenty of really, really smart combinations that I actually would love to see go and have a shot at the Europeans. Actually, a couple of them, it's hard to put them ahead of Kitty in terms of performance overall, apart from Kitty has great championship experience. And actually, you know, a Europeans where you don't need to book a qualifying ticket is often an opportunity to kind of induct another couple of younger riders into that sort of atmosphere, especially looking to Paris when you can only take 3 in a team and it's the last sort of team experience beforehand. Let's talk about...
Can we ask you the one-word answer? Are they taking Kitty to the Europeans?
I'm going to say no.
If she wins Burghley, I'll rethink my Paris list, 100%.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, she could well go and be on the podium at Europeans. Let's be totally
I will
honest.
rethink then 100% as well.
Well, I actually think she has to win the Europeans. Sorry, I do. I think in this context in Britain right now, I think she gets in. I actually, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I think if she finishes on the podium at the Europeans, I actually don't even know if it's eye-catching enough. In that, because you've got to go ahead of JL Dublin, who is a European champion, Toledo, who, well, what will Toledo have done by that point? But I mean, what will Toledo not have done in another sense? But in terms of reliability and scoring profile, you'd have to consider him probably still there. You'd have to go ahead of Oliver and any of his, which maybe you'd say at the moment it would be. But it'll be, I think you might have to win the Europeans. Have to win the Europeans.
Yeah, you're right. And you've also got some other really, really nice horses coming through. And we're going to talk about a few of them, I would imagine, at some point, because they weren't in Luhmühlen this weekend. But Piggy March has got some really smart work.
A world champion. Sorry, I forgot about her. World champion. Go ahead.
Yeah, you've got Yazingham in there as well. Let's talk about Yazingham because she was on the podium, Rihi DJ. And actually, you know, she was second in Kentucky last year. She's the world champion. But this is her first big 5-star result on a horse other than Banzai de Loire. And that's a really, really big moment. I have to admit to being super impressed. Rosie, you put Rihi DJ up on the preview show. I'm very, very, very glad that you did because deserved podium finisher.
I was quite chuffed, I must admit. I was getting worried to start with because everybody kept withdrawing that I put up. So I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? But no, I was really, really chuffed with Rihi DJ. And I just think that it proves his consistency. He's such a fantastic jumper. And it's their first 5-star completion. But I think 3 years ago when they did their 5-star in Po, they've come on so much. The 4-star experience, Yaz's confidence and experience, obviously from becoming world champion. I think it's all just fed into this snowball effect of him becoming quite a serious second horse that people need to think about with him because he's clearly got it.
He has. He was 4th at Buccolo last year. It's interesting. We saw him step up to 5-star at Po the year that Laura won in 2020. and he didn't quite go to plan cross country, and then he didn't complete with something at the second horse inspection. But it's been a little while since he stepped back up to the 5-star level, but he looked brilliant. Yaz looked very confident. This will have done her absolutely no harm at all as well. Another 5-star result post Kentucky, because actually all the mileage you can get at the very top level is really, really beneficial. And she's still got, for a world champion, actually not a huge amount of 5-star mileage. So very, very excited for her. And I think Rihi DJ, I'll be interested to see where he goes next. I imagine could well see him I'd love to imagine if he goes to Maryland the end of the year. That could be really cool. Okay, let's talk about the Americans, or one American in particular. Boyd Martin came over with 3 horses. That's a leg, the sort of the old timer that's massively experienced. Luke 140, who was actually coming back after a bit of an injury layoff, having really impressed up the levels, was the OG listeners of Boyd's picks for the Tokyo Olympics, and then he had some time off, and so Setzeleg went. And also Federman B. So Luke 140, Federman B, both first timers at the 5-star level. And actually, it was the 2 young guns that came through. Luke 140 finished on his dressage score for 4th. Federman B just rolled a pole in the show jumping and took 8th eventually. This is going to give Boyd Martin huge points in terms of FEI ranking points. And actually, Dee, the US strength and depth, I'd say they will be absolutely delighted, because Boyd's obviously got 2 5-star campaigners now, waiting in Setzeleg's sexy legs as wings. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, Nicole. I was clicking there, so that's why I went on mute. If
that stays in, I sound so like, you're on mute. I sound so pissed off with this. You're on mute.
Leave it in.
Thanks, Dee. I'm not pissed off, I promise.
It's okay. You put up Luke 140, Knickers.
Do you know what? He was my horse. You don't know his name now, but you will this time next year. I think it was 2021, the year that he was selected for Tokyo, and I was so excited. And then, of course, it didn't really happen. Boyd rates him really, really highly. I think he's class. Absolutely. He's a jumper. Absolute jumper.
He's actually has the same sire like London 52. It's Londos.
Oh.
That's why he's here. That's why we're paying the big bucks. You're right in terms of strength and depth, Nicole. 2 in the top 8 at 5-star. I suppose you'd want them, if you had your pick, you'd want them over 2 different riders. You can see it in certain nations at the moment where actually you can get a little bit of a collection of amazing horses all sitting with 1 or 2 riders. But great for Boyd.
See, I'd say Boyd is actually the one of the US combinations that of the World Championship team last year really is the one that is fighting for a spot. He's not going to Aachen as part of a really, really strong US team.
Yeah.
You've got Liz Halliday-Sharp and Mixmaster C kind of stepping back into the picture. I'd say Boyd needed some young guns coming through, and actually having 2 of them, not a bad thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a point well made. Yeah. Who's number 5, actually? Did anyone mention him before?
Who's number 5? Harry Mead, Anna Ayres.
And 6th. Hang on a second.
Feels like. And Tom Jackson and Farndon. I got him as well. Really cool.
Rosie, can we just play that back? Did I get him or did Nicole get him? I think Rosie, just play in that section there of the preview. My one, would you believe? Do you know who it is? It's I can tell you. I don't need to look it up. It's Tom Jackson.
Oh no, he was going to be mine.
Really? Farndon?
Yeah, Farndon.
All right, look, we'll share him. Sounds like it was me. Farndon, great shout. What did you think of the test, Knickers? 34.9. I actually thought, Nicole, everything went really well. And then you're going...
The changes were unbelievably expensive. Missed 3 changes. But
finished on his dressage score?
Yeah, finished on his dressage score. One of only, I think, four people maybe did it in the 5-star. Only one person did it in the 4-star, which we'll talk about in a second.
Could that be a birdie horse now? Tom Jackson's, that profile? Probably
Farndon, not. Yeah, absolutely. And Tom Jackson, again,
the Europeans, so it feels like a birdie horse. Tom Jackson.
Yeah, if he's selected for the Europeans, it'll be with Capel's Hollow Drift, I would highly imagine. So therefore, entirely possible. Farndon, very, very exciting. Really smart. And to be honest, a 34.9, having missed 3 changes and picked up a couple of other 4s, isn't actually a disaster. You know, you look at that and you think, okay, there's a sub 30 in there if you can nail those changes.
I think that's very exciting. Farndon, I think, is 13, which means, you know, it's time now, really, to do it. But Capel's Hollow Drift, I think we talked about it on the preview, has hit that Vendredi Beats rating somewhere in the mid 700 ELOs. And now Farndon is going to take a huge jump from here in terms of a top 6. It really depends on who you beat. And I'm looking down the list. Tregilder is behind him. Swallow Springs comes in 7th, so Farndon will take points from Swallow Springs. But you've also got MGH Grafton Street is in there. Muzzy Pottinger's Just Kidding is behind. Valmy Beats, Emily King. You know, and they're just of the ones that finished. You know, you've got horses like Leah Siegel's DSP Fighting Line, who retired cross country, who would have been, you know, definitely horses that, you know, I don't think there's ever been a horses to watch this year's show, Nicole, probably for 5 years, that we didn't manage to put in DSP Fighting Line as some form of underdog or under the radar horse, or under the radar going to a championship. Maybe not under the radar anymore. Setzer as well, who you mentioned, you know, he's finished ahead. I think there's something special there. Tenerez, of course, who we touched on briefly with Harry, who's finished in 5th. Tenerez, we've been waiting a long time for a big performance like that. I'm very pleased that it's come. But a 30.7 and one of those other small group of people that have finished on it. Brilliant for Tenerez, but, you know, now 16. It feels like we've missed 6 years to Tenerez. Maybe, would that be fair? Does it feel like there was that big a gap from, or certainly we stopped talking about Tenerez for a long time? I think Farndon's arriving a little bit earlier, Nicole, and I'm delighted for Tom Jackson. It feels like something special is happening there, and it'll be really interesting to see over the next couple of years. I think that Burley one, Burley could be another big stepping point there.
Yeah, I'd be very excited to see. He's got 2 Blenheim completions under his belt. Now, obviously, having been top 10 at Luhmühlen, this is Farndon. Watch this space as to where he goes next. Oliver Townend had 2 inside the top 10, Swallow Springs and Tregilder. Again, big FEI ranking points for him. And nice to see Swallow Springs back cross country, clear inside the time as well. I want to come, though, to the man who finished in 10th, because it is one of those future stars for Germany that we've been talking about. Jerome Rabin, Black Ice, 5-star debut. Konstantin, he absolutely nailed it.
What a way to start his 5-star campaign. It was a long time aim for Jerome, I know, to get to this 5-star level and to do it in this style, top 10. Pretty special. And I think that's going to be a good shout for the Germans, for the Europeans as well. It's interesting, since Jerome took over the ride in 2020, he never had a cross-country fold with his horse, and the dressage can go even lower than his result now, and I think he has a great future ahead of him, and Jerome is a top jockey.
That's really cool. So we could be seeing them in Hereda Pan, because I think Germany, actually, in terms of young riders coming through, you've got the likes of Calvin Bockman, Emma Brusso sort of stepping up, but there's been almost a bit of you've got your Ingrids and your Julias and your Michael Youngs who've kind of dominated the teams. And then there feels like a bit of a gap of those riders stepping up. Julia feels like the only one that's really done it in the last sort of 5-6 years. Is that fair off memory?
Oh, yeah, true. But I think these guys are coming up now. There's a very strong group of young riders coming out of young riders. I don't know, will we talk about them in the 4-star session? I think they are all in there, and they're going to be very, very good.
I think there's plenty of them, actually. We'll come on to them in a sec. Jerome, I remember commentating on him at Bishop Burton Junior European Championships in 2014 it was. And he finished on the podium individually, had a really cool horse called, I think it was Quadrille du Arm, something like that.
Yeah.
Was it a homebred?
Oh, yeah. Homebred by his parents.
Cool. And he led the dressage. I think he was pretty up there. Yeah, I'm sure he led the dressage. A couple of seconds over the time cross country. Anyway, ended up finishing third. Behind individual silver on that day, Carl Daniels, Ryogen Ruhr. Taking it back. There you go, listeners. A little bit of random piece of information that you never know when you might need it. Okay, any other takes from the 5-star before we move on to the 4-star? Because I think for me, couple of shocks. De Capo actually having run-outs in the main arena, and Laura calling it a day with him as her first ride, and also Emily King and Valmy Biats. I was disappointed, and I'm sure Emily would have been as well for them. I gutted that it didn't all come together for them.
I think there's probably, of the retired cross-country horses, all of them are horses that I think you would... I'm grouping them all. I'm going to read them all out for you now, but all of them, I think, are horses that we have talked about with great excitement. And I think all of them you would take... We have definitely had an angle on all of them as to why they were ones to watch. And I think when you think about it in terms of the fine lines that the sport is, like, Rosie, you're right to point out the Graffalo train when we're starting the show about London, because post Pretoni, it really did felt like there was a change of the guard, maybe just based on one run out coming down a hill. Actually, we thought, oh, poor old London, promised so much, but now there's a new sheriff in town, and there's a resilience. Sam mentioned it on our stand-up this morning at our stand-up meeting this morning. He talked about horses that need brilliance and resilience to be able to come back and put London into that bracket. You know, a horse that has had disappointment, whether it was at Aachen. I think they delivered Laura's best ever dressage test at Aachen came with London. Haven't had really big test there with Ray F, probably more than 10 years ago now, in that kind of 2012 mark. They led the dressage. They led going into the cross country, because I think Ingrid had a rail cross in the show jump, and it meant that London was actually leading going cross country at Aachen, and then had that run out not too far from home. That's hard. You know, we've talked about it at different shows. They had to fall at the Luhmühlen Europeans. That's hard. They're always with the dressage test this horse will do. It's always going to be high profile stuff. So the resilience to keep coming back, and now to be a 3-time 5-star winner, 3 different 5-stars and like record breaking 5-stars, to have 3 of the best 5-star scores in the history of the sport, like, be in no doubt that the brilliance is there. But the fine lines, I suppose, that I'm thinking of, Nicole, like De Capo, we talked about maybe this was a better track and a better place for De Capo to shine, not to be. Tammy Smith and Sulaguara, California, you talked about in the preview. You know, we've had, I'm not going to go through all the why did not to be's actually, because that's kind of unfair, but we did talk about them. There was more there. Elizabeth Power, Senzafine. I think we only got to them towards the end of the preview, but we've talked about them in multiple preview shows this year as to how much Izup and Senzafine have to offer. You know, didn't go here. Imogen Murray's horse, Hallie Coon and Global X, DSP Fighting Line and Leah Siegel, Commander VG for Nicole. I just chickened out a little bit of Estes. I just was like, oh, how am I going to put all those vowels together? Bill Levitt, Matthew Flynn, you know, Happy Boy withdrew before it.
Yeah.
You know, like, we've got to have a fine line between doing real reviews, which allow you to talk about what didn't go well, but then also trying to maintain some level of healthy respect for people at times when they're disappointed. But it is quite a big old list, and that's just the people that didn't finish cross country. There's lots of other people who'll be disappointed with elements of the cross country, but it's fine lines. You know, you've got at least 4 or 5 horses there who are either big money horses or big promise horses, and they're not getting around that Luhmühlen track. And that, I suppose, is a reminder to the fact that you can be the favourite on paper, but like, for London to go and deliver this often and this well, it's a big tick, I think, in the box of actually resilience and brilliance.
Yeah, it is. And I think there were a few horses actually that maybe on paper they didn't have totally the result they would have wanted. A few cross-country penalties, at Cooley Rosalind, Oliver Townend being one, but actually will have come on a lot for the run. Will Rawlin, delighted to get his first 5-star completion under his belt with the partner. There were some really, really good, solid performances of horses that I think we'll see a feature a lot more, as is always the case at this sort of level. Right, 4-star short, because Konstantin, I feel like we have seen some future superstars in German eventing. First of all, I want to ask you, German National Championships, it's the Mesmer Trophy. Just how important is this in terms of German eventing? This one particular class, how big is it in Germany?
Oh, it's definitely up there in the biggest eventing competitions in Germany. Like Luhmühlen is always a big show. Many people go there, and to have the national championships in front of a big crowd there is very special. And I think Julia showed the world what she's capable of in terms of producing young horses.
She topped the podium, Julia Krajewski, actually with the horse on whom she was second going into the show jumping. She was 1-2. She'd already secured the win with Hero de Cantré when Nicole 21 went into jump. Nicole 21 ended up in third. Christoph Vorler de course 70 actually finished in second. So it was a Julia Krajewski win. Let's talk about that horse for a second, because we know her well for her partnerships with the likes of Samurai Duteau and Fisher Chipmunk before he went to Michael Young. Now for Amanda Bonneville. These are two young horses coming through. They've made a brilliant step up to 4-star level this year, but should be said, they've actually only stepped up to 4-star in the last couple of months. So this would have been a big test for them.
Yes, they're both 9 years old, and I think they're doing their Aero's doing his, I think, only second 4-star, and Nicole is doing his third 4-star. So it's great for the future of German eventing, I think, with Julia having these two guys coming up, and looking forward to see how they will progress through their 4-star long and in the future.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I think that it's exciting because it didn't all quite go to the horse's potential. Like Nicole 21 is a really, really good show jumper and had 2 down in the show jumping. And I think that, these horses are producing scores like this and winning such important 4-stars very young and, not performing at their absolute best, which I think shows what Julia has got coming through. And when you were talking about the Germans and how it could be a bit of a change of guard, with some of the new people coming in, I think it's really, really exciting because they've been at the top of their game. And I thought for a time that we might have this gap where they start to slip. But I think with these horses and riders coming through, I don't think there's going to be the gap. And I think you've got to be as scared of the Germans now as we've always been, because, they are seriously, seriously competitive with the horses they're producing and the riders that are coming through.
Can I ask a question? Has anybody seen the Olympic champion, individual silver from the World Championships, Amanda Bonneville? I thought she might be coming here. I thought we might then see her at Aachen.
No, we haven't seen her this year. And I have to say, Julia said in a TV interview yesterday after her show jumping that she will actually not be competing this year. So there's going to be no Amanda Bonneville this year. Also at the Europeans, they're going to be preparing for Paris.
What?
That's huge.
Wow. So we probably won't see Julia Krajewski at the Europeans at all.
No, because her 2 9-year-olds, they're not qualified. They don't have a 4-star long now. No Julia at Harras-Dupin, I think.
Wow.
By the way, no Ingrid at the Europeans. I guess no Ingrid at Aachen. I see.
She broke her collarbone?
Broken collarbone, I saw on Saturday, yeah.
I mean, in theory, she could be back for the Europeans, in theory.
Yeah, that's possible. Konstantin, would you think about putting on the boots and a saddle and going to ride for Germany at the Europeans? This is it. Now's the time.
Yeah, I should.
He's literally like, call me.
Just call me.
Diary's wide open.
Who is that then, Konstantin? Okay, that's pretty big news on Amanda Bonneville. Fisher Chipmunk presumably still fine. We haven't seen as much of Michael. I think he's going to Aachen.
Yeah, and he won last time out, I think, a couple of weeks ago in a 4-star as well. Just kind of did the business.
Is it Sandra? Is it the Aachen winner? Is the Aachen defending champ?
Would have thought, yeah.
Maybe 2.
Christoph Vorler. Karajan S?
He had a very good win in Barbarocco a few weeks ago with Karajan, and then also his younger horse, Dakar, won the silver medal last weekend at Luhmühlen. He had a very, very good show jumping round, one of only 2 clear show jumping rounds, and probably a horse for the future as well.
What about, I mean, I'm looking at the likes of, you would say Dirk Schrader would have a great shot at going to the Europeans. So Casino 80, who went really well at Blenheim last year with Dirk, haven't seen a huge amount of the horse this year. Came over to a few British events, actually, got washed out at the start of the season. But Casino 80, I was actually going to say the one to watch for Germany coming through is Carlitos Kudic K, Marlin Hansen Hotop, who won Blenheim last year and actually
Nicole absolutely loves Quidditch K because you were covering that. Actually, you too were covering that, weren't you? Both of you are here now.
Yeah, we were both at Blenheim during the World last year. Yeah.
So we were over watching, I suppose, from a German point of view, quite a big result for Montbonneville, because obviously following up on Tokyo, it was a huge result really for them to go and deliver that at Bertoni and another podium. But you both were really on the Quidditch K train from a Blenheim point of view, because you were like, who is Quidditch K? We need to get stories, we need to get angles. We weren't prepared for a Quidditch K Blenheim win. Now we need to know everything that we need to know. And I think you've both maintained or retained, I should say, a huge amount of Quidditch K information post that. I think you're right, Nicole, in that I think it's wide open. I mean, Konstantin can't really comment on this because he knows them all too well. So he's like, don't make me say who's going. But
I've got one. I found one. I found who's going to go to the Europeans for Germany. Konstantin, you tell me if this is going to be right. But this is the moment. We've been talking about him for years. He was dubbed the young listener. He has won literally like so many medals that he probably sinks a boat. Calvin Bachmann, Altair de la Sens, were on the podium in Wiesbaden. I mean, I imagine, I haven't seen the Aachen entry list, but I'd say Aachen's probably on the cards, Europeans on the cards. Konstantin, what can any info?
Oh, yeah. Calvin's going to Aachen with the Altair de la Sens, and he had a very good result with the Phantom of the Opera, former Sandra Offerthright, at Luhmühlen this week. And he's one of this, or probably the young talent in Germany. He's going to be aiming for the Europeans. Why not?
If we're talking about the young talent, I'll have to stop you there, because I think the young talent in Germany
is Annalena Schaaf.
Yeah, and I think Fairy Tale 39. I think it's what makes Aachen maybe really interesting from a German point of view. It's a totally different challenge to the British question, where you've got all of these really obvious horses and you're trying to find 3. It feels like you've got Fisher Chipmunk. Right now you've got Fisher Chipmunk, you've got one of Sandra's in Viamont, or maybe Let's Dance.
Have we seen Let's Dance recently though? It's only Viamont to Mats, I think. Is
it just Viamont? Konstantin's shaking his head. Forget Let's Dance, is that right? Let's Dance?
So, yeah, I think it's only Viamont to Mats at the moment.
Okay, so that number 3 spot feels wide open, because actually, if we're really honest, you can go through that list now and you could say it is Calvin, it is Annalena, Malin. I think it makes Aachen very interesting. There's a big chance for someone to step forward, isn't there? Will Annalena go to Aachen?
Annalena's
result this week was very, very special. Fairy Tale is bred by her grandfather, and she really went all the way up with this horse. She took on the ride. I think she was 12, and the horse was 5, and she did all this junior young rider, and now she's arrived at the 4-star level. I don't know about Aachen, but I don't think that she is a 4-star long qualification. So
she hasn't. I went double checking, and she hasn't. So as Laguna OLD, to be fair, the horse that has been breaking records all the way up through the start of her career. I mean, Lagona is a 6 and 7-year-old young horse world champion, more international wins consecutively than any other horse in history. I think it had seven in a row. Actually, only an 8-year-old this time, would be 9 by Paris. Again, no 4-star long qualification as yet. So feels like there's a door opening, like both of Julia's. We're saying we're not going to see a Monte Bonneville probably this season. Both of Julia's young horses also need 4-star long qualifications. So
what's it going to mean? It's going to mean France are the last line of defence against another cartwheeling British championship. You know, there was a time there that we could rely on Michael, Ingrid, Julia
religiously.
Well, just to put it up to the Brits, you know, and often to beat them. But it doesn't feel like that now. We don't have our resurgent US team, which, look, it might be a step too far for a resurgent US team to chase them down, but we won't obviously have them at the Europeans. No Kiwis, no Aussies. I don't think they would chase down the Brits as the current Brits team are. Anyway, in fairness, maybe no one could if there are two horses that were arguing whether whether it'll be 21 or 23, and who the third one will also be a sub-25 finish. Maybe no one would catch them anyway. But God, from a sporting point of view, it's just the home nation now that feels like could put in something to rival or something to challenge them. Flip side of that is there might be a nice podium opportunity for someone like Ireland, maybe
Sweden.
Absolutely, Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
But there could be, I mean, these are the kind of moments that you sometimes need. Germany are in a transitional stage. Very promising transitional stage, Konstantin. I agree. But that's interesting news.
I was just going to say, poor Konstantin, we get him on the show, and he's absolutely flogged German eventing.
No.
It is very much. It feels like a new era of opportunity. And actually, I would say Ingrid Klimpat, I'm just going to put it out there, Ingrid Klimpat, who probably we definitely won't see in Aachen. We might not see in at the Europeans, but she's got some really, really nice horses coming back because Cascamaria, who I'm sure many of you will remember from Le Lion a few years ago, is back and actually ran in, I think, 3-star a few weeks ago. I'll just double check it because I saw it a minute ago.
The one, I think,
Cascamara,
yeah.
But won in didn't win, but has been back out this year. And Cascamara is a former 6-year-old young horse world champion, and then we just haven't seen a huge amount of her. Really, we have actually, but just not stepping up the levels. But is probably getting to this point. And also SAP Ashapy, don't forget, is back as well. So D.
Hang on, D. I thought she was going to win Paris.
Oh my goodness, Asha P and Ingrid. If it's not one of them breaking my heart, it's the other. And now it's Ingrid. I mean,
Asha P won a 3-star in Stragom though, earlier this year.
Yeah, but this is we've been here before, you know, like when Ingrid hurt herself on the way home from Barbarocco, wasn't it? Was it around this time of year? I think it was not. It was close enough to this time of year when she hurt herself in 2021. Starting to sound like a bit of a weirdo now. I appreciate.
I double check, but I would have a feeling. Oh God, I don't know the rules enough. Somebody listening to this, Georgia Patrick, definitely would know. But I was going to say SAP Ashby. She missed all of 2021, all of 2022. Her last long format was 2020, at the back end of 2020, which she won in Pratoni, presuming that would still keep her qualification for a championships. But I wouldn't like to bet my house on it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think the look, I think you summed it up nicely. I think you said I was slagging them off, but I think you did it in just a kind of nicer BBC Nicole way of saying that Germany are, how did you describe it? A new age of opportunity for Germany.
I think that's a great line. A new age of opportunity.
Yeah, well done. You did it. You're finished. Out with the old, in with the new for Germany, and the new are pretty special group coming.
To be fair, the old are still there. Do not write them off by any stretch of the imagination, but there's some really exciting young talent waiting in the wings. Arken's going to be really, really cool and a big step, I think, in the direction of giving us indicators for a potential German European Championship team. Big couple of weeks coming up. Obviously, this time next week, listeners will be looking forward to Aachen with a preview show, which will be coming your way. But there's lots coming thick and fast because Aachen's a big one, but it's not that long till the Europeans are upon us. We've got the likes of Burley, Blenheim, all the big ones still to come this year to look forward to. And listeners, there might be a sneaky overview show coming your way very, very soon as well. I know a few of you have been waiting for that one. So keep your ears peeled. But thank you all. Konstantin, thank you. It has been lovely to have you on the show.
Thanks,
and yeah, great insight. I feel like I'm still reeling from the Amand Bonneville news, but hey, listeners, I'm sure you guys are as well. Rosie D, thank you as always, and we will be back very soon with more on the Ratings Eventing podcast. If you don't already, please do go and leave us a review on whatever your chosen podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Podcast Addict, whatever it is. It makes a massive difference, really does help. So thank you in advance for doing so. For now, though, that is all we've got time for. We'll be back soon with more.